Welcome to Lift Your Legacy. My name is Jacob Rupp, father, husband, and rabbi. And each week we bring you an inspiring person or message to help you unlock your inner potential and create change that will impact the future. Thank you for listening, and let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to have on today Yael Bendahan. She is a digital marketing strategist, but we really cover the gamut here. She is a mom of four who became a mother at 19 years old, did not officially finish high school, and is now running a very successful business. So not only do we go into some of the more important fundamentals of social media marketing and digital marketing in general, but also like how do you start a business when you are, having lived such a different life from the way that the majority of people have lived. You're coming in as a grown up, as a parent. I think it's a very actually universal challenge a lot of us have when we look at the inconsistencies in our own life where we are not like everybody else, but we still want to have normal dreams or big dreams. So we really dive into her own background and some of the mindset components that she needed to build her business. And then as I love to do, we really kind of get into the nuts and bolts of marketing and what she's really good at. So with no further ado, Yael Bendahan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has been brought to you by me, Jacob Rupp, and Jacob Rupp's Consulting, technically Lift Your Legacy. Now, I have to be honest, I help clients often get out of their own way. And something that has really held me up was exactly the same thing, that I was in my own way. For months, people have been saying, talk about your coaching, talk about how you help people, share it, etc. And I had a really hard time putting it out there. Why? Because it's not that I don't think I do a great job. I've seen amazing results from my clients, 10x, even more than that, businesses, fixed relationships, helped people lose a lot of weight. People go on the path of making goals and fulfilling their goals, all of these things. I know I do it. And I've been in the coaching space long enough to know that there's a lot of people that don't really deliver. And the ones that do really deliver are worth literally their weight in gold, because so often we're held back by stuff. And it's just like, if only I could get over that, if only I could work through that. And I help people do that. But for me, my big holdup was sharing that I do this in a big way, in a public way, especially on the podcast, because it's awkward. I don't want people to think, I'm just making the podcast to sell you stuff or to talk about stuff. So that's not what I'm doing. My point is like this. My coaching business is expanding. I'm taking on a few more clients. If you are someone that is struggling in the area of self-esteem, goal setting, health, relationships, or your business, really, reach out. I don't know if we're a good fit to work with each other. What I can guarantee you is that we'll get on the phone for a half an hour. I'll hear the kind of challenges you're having. You'll get a good feel, if you don't know me yet, of the kind of work I do, kind of program I would recommend for you. And if it's a great fit, we'll move forward. And if not, not. But I wanted to appreciate very much from the bottom of my heart the fact that you guys all listen. I appreciate the amazing guests that I have. And I'm really thrilled to have broken through in my own life to the point where I could actually devote a segment to really make a somewhat long-winded, but I think very important advertisement. So if you want to reach out to me, the email is rabbi, R-A-B-B-I, rupp @gmail.com. And the website is liftyourlegacy.live, and at lift_your_legacy on Instagram. I think it's pretty simple. You know where to find me because you found the podcast. Thank you so much. Yael Bendahan, you are a digital marketing strategist, an absolute all-star in the space of helping people tell their story online, and also have like a very cool personal story yourself about how you went from mom of four with not really sure, kind of what you're going to do to building a successful business in the marketplace. So tell me a little bit, just, put your story out there if you could about how you got to where you are today and what it is really exactly that you do.
Ooh, okay. I mean, do you have a few hours? I'm kidding. So yeah, I grew up in New York, and my family made Aliyah actually on the very first international flight when I was 12. And it was not a very easy transition, to put it mildly. And so after kind of going back and forth, I went back to the States, I came back here, ended up going to Gates Seminary, I did not actually end up graduating high school. I got married when I was 18 to my husband, and we moved to London near his family for a few years, and then came back here. So I was basically the daughter of a doctor and a lawyer with like not even a high school diploma and no college degree. But like I didn't really care that much because I had kids at that point. I had 2 kids when we moved back here, and we had 2 more since. And I was really, really happy just to be the mom and, you know, do the mom thing. And I was very good at it. So, but at some point, I think as it always comes, we realized that one income was just not going to cut it anymore. And at first I was like, okay, let me look around for jobs. And I realized that even the full-time jobs here in Israel for people without any sort of higher education were pretty much maybe going to cover my baby's childcare. He was about 1 at the time, and I was like, okay, well that's not happening. I'm not gonna leave my baby from like 7 to 5 or whatever so I can just break even. That's ridiculous. So I said, okay, I'm gonna figure out a way to work from home. So I started off actually as a blogger, because that's apparently what moms do, is they blog. And then I realized it was kind of like that was a very long-term income strategy. And so I started using the skills that I learned to become a blogger to help other bloggers, and then to help other businesses, and it kind of grew from there. So what I am is a digital marketing strategist, and I help businesses market themselves online. So whether it's through social media or through email or through content marketing or sales funnels or Facebook ads or whatever it is, I basically help them kind of get their name and face and message out there and bring in more clients, customers, sell their stuff, sell their message, wherever it is.
Amazing. Okay, so let's try to go back, if we could, to that thought process that you had when, and I think that it's such a prevalent thought process when, again, either it's someone that did not go the conventional path of, you know, high school, college, graduate school, whatever it might be, and or someone that, you know, a woman that took whatever years off of her professional career to raise a family, and then as you said, kind of gets back either because financially they need it or because she wants to go back to work. What are some strategies that, in terms of just the mindset of kind of negotiating back, kind of covering a lot of ground that most people had, you know, in college or when they were working without raising a family, what's the mindset shift that has to happen in order for you to kind of get back on your feet or get on your feet quickly?
Oh, I mean, I don't like saying this because really it's not really that healthy, but I didn't really sleep much for a couple of years. I don't think I haven't really slept much in the past 2.5 years, but it's getting better. So basically I realized that especially at the beginning when I wasn't really making that much money, and we still don't have any regular household help. I get a mother's helper a couple of days a week, and we still don't have a full-time cleaner or anything, even really a part-time cleaner, to be honest, actually. And so I realized like I had to continue to kind of keep up with my responsibilities as a mom and a wife, and managing our home and all the stuff that comes along with it, and also figure out a way to make money. And so I basically utilized every spare second I had to do that. So I was like watching trainings while I was folding laundry, and I was watching trainings while I was doing dishes, and I was watching trainings while I was cooking for Shabbos, and you know, and getting out there and practicing. And literally, I probably pulled 1 or 2 all-nighters a week, you know, for a while, because I just was trying to, like I said, I was trying to catch up. And I'm lucky because I'm a reader. I've been reading since I was 4, and I'm a very fast learner, and so I'm able to do that. I was able to kind of take in a lot of information in a relatively short space of time. But I think it's kind of, and people always say like, oh wow, like, you know, like how'd you do that? And like, you know, you're so awesome or whatever. And I'm like, it's something I felt I had to do. Like for me, staying home with my kids wasn't something I was willing to compromise on. I did not want to go out to work. And I was like, okay, so I will have to just figure out a way to do this. And you know, to stay home with them and make enough money to make it worth, you know, to make it worth the time I spend on it. Because for me, every minute I spend working is the minute I'm not with my children or taking care of my home or taking care of my kids or whatever. So to me, it's very important that as my business grows, I mean, at the beginning, there's a certain amount of, you know, grunt work, so to speak, you have to do to get the experience and to keep growing. But then after a while, it's more about working smarter versus harder, and figuring out how to leverage your time better as, you know, as a mom, because, like, I mean, we don't want to spend all our time away from our kids. I hope if you have kids, you don't want to spend all your time away from your kids. So yeah, I think it was definitely a struggle, and it's still a struggle. It was definitely an adjustment for my kids too, because they went from, like, having this stay-at-home mom who was, like, devoted, like, every second of her life to them, to mom who had other things to do, and I think it's been a learning curve for all of us.
I think one of the things that perhaps you can speak to, something you had to overcome or something that just never really popped into your radar, is that as a person tries to go back in and compete in the working world, did you ever feel a level of frustration or, you know, like negativity, like, if only I hadn't kind of followed the path that I was on? Or are you saying that the path that you're on actually gave you, again, I'm saying, like, specifically as a religious woman that obviously put her, the religious education above the secular education, and then as a young mother, did that fuel you? Or were there, like, those dark moments where you're like, geez, if only I had just started working in a normal job, you know, when I was like 17, I wouldn't be in this situation? What was that like?
Ooh, really, so to be honest, I don't think I would be where I am if I'd gone the regular, because, I mean, for me to have gone that, like, traditional sort of route, I don't think I would have succeeded so well in college here in Israel, because of the language barrier, and so for that to happen, we would have not moved to Israel. I probably would have gone to college in the States, and I don't even know how I would have met my husband, because he's from London, right? So, I mean, I don't really see how that would have worked any differently, and it does sometimes make me feel a little bit at a disadvantage, or, you know, sometimes I'm like, ooh, like, I didn't go to college. But then sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not waste 4 years in college. Like, I managed to do all this and learn whatever I'm learning in 2 years, and I'm making probably more money than some people who went to college and, you know, got their master's or whatever it is they did. I mean, I don't think that college necessarily is a like predictor of future success necessarily. I mean, it could be, but it also could not. And so for me, it was just more a matter of, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was like going in there going, oh, here are all the things I don't know about working with, you know, as a business owner, all the things I don't know about working with business owners. It can be intimidating sometimes. There are definitely different types of people I prefer to work with and not work with, because it just doesn't, like, suit my personality. I'm not very corporate. I don't know if you noticed, I'm in my playroom. So for me, it's just a matter of finding the business that works for me and my personality. And I don't know, it's like I said, it's not something that I kind of knew what I was missing, so it's not something that I felt like terrible about missing. And I'm actually glad. I mean, like, I think I did okay, like, without that time.
And the other I guess practical question would be that if you, I guess maybe there's a expected level of professionalism that you clearly are comfortable not necessarily bringing to the table. You don't have a nice office that's overlooking some kind of a view. You know, you're very upfront about the fact that you're a mom, that you, I mean, like, literally very few people would probably feel comfortable saying, I folded laundry and listened to, strategy classes for a couple of years. Do you feel that limits you? Or, and again, I think this is a much broader question in terms of how a person positions themselves in the marketplace. Does that limit you, or that becomes part of your story, which then the businesses that you work with can say, this is a genuine person, and I can build that trust relationship with them?
No, definitely. I think for me, listen, I'm a mom, and being a mom is, like, because I've been a mom since I was 19. You know, it's I've been a mom for almost 10 years, and it's a very, very integral part of my personality and of my life and my existence. And I can't, like, it's not something I can kind of, like, be like, I can't compartmentalize it. You know, I mean, I feel like maybe for men it's a little bit easier to do that, to be like, you know, they're at work, they're home, and, like, there's no, like, never the twain shall meet in a way. But for me, like, everything is all kind of mixed up. And I don't necessarily think that's a disadvantage. I do find it tends to attract the people that I like more. Because, you know, the people who are willing to be flexible and understand that my family is my priority, you know, if they don't understand that, then I don't want to work with them anyway, you know, and at some point something was going to give, right? When my kid would get sick, or, like, my kid would run in. I mean, I've had my kids run in onto calls with clients right straight from the bath. We're not going to go, you know, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, and like, it was okay. I mean, it was a little embarrassing, but it was okay because it was just people that understood that, like, this is how it is, and I'm giving my best to them. And just because I happen to have given birth to 4 children does not mean I can't give my best. And I actually find that a lot of the ways that I manage my time as a mom, especially and because before I started my business, I was a very productive mother. I got a lot of stuff done, and people would always ask me how I got a lot of stuff done, and I kind of translated that to getting things done in my business too. So a lot of things I did, like, breaking things down into, if I was making a cake, you make the cake and then you put it in the freezer and you make the frosting and then and then all that kind of stuff, you break it down. So I kind of translated that to a lot of business stuff too. And so it in a way, yeah, it probably does repel people. Some people would be like, I don't think that's professional, or maybe she's not professional enough. And I'm like, okay, great. I don't really want to work with you, and it almost acts as its own filter. People who are not happy with the fact that I'm a mother, like, I wouldn't want to work with them either. So it works out on both sides.
And do you find that that's something that you try to advise clients of yours in terms of turning into what makes them special, as opposed to trying to, I mean, I guess maybe it's a practical question for me, but I think that a lot of people can identify with that. Is it's like, as a quote unquote, whatever I am, a dentist office or a rabbi or a whatever it might be, like, I fit the bill in some ways. And then, like, what I really care about is, like, a lot of other stuff. To what extent do you have to advise clients to turn into what makes them different? Like, how, again, like with you, it's like, how often or how upfront are you about the mother thing? Not that it's a problem. It's just like who you are versus, how does that fit in, by the way, digital marketing strategist, by the way, dentist, by the way, rabbi, kind of a thing.
Well, I mean, like I said, I kind of put it very, in fact, on my website, I mean, it's pretty much a web page. On my web page, it literally says, I'm mom for kids. And, if you ever heard the saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person, then it's true. And I'm that busy person, so I kind of just project it as kind of like a strength and not a weakness. I don't see it as a weakness. I think that moms have a lot of powers and capabilities and talents that they kind of that naturally comes out of them as they parent their children, and I think that's something that's fantastic. And I definitely think that, I know authenticity is kind of like this buzzword now. It's like, oh my gosh, be authentic and be vulnerable and Brene Brown, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, some of it just is like really like cheesy and it's like fake authenticity, which I hate. But the fact is, there's only so long you can kind of keep up like a front. So it's one thing if you actually are corporate and you do go to work, and your office is outside of your home and you go and you come back. My mom was a lawyer in Manhattan, right? So she would put on her suit and she'd leave and she'd come back and she'd be our mom. It was, and she quit when we were actually quite young, when I was 5. But like, that's how I remember her, and that was kind of her.
Would you attribute the quitting to, because it's an interesting thing, because a lot of people, especially I think nowadays, really like what they do or feel fulfilled by, again, if you're not like, working in some sweat factory sometime, you see your work as an extension of yourself. Do you feel like that, again, maybe you don't want to, go into this, but do you feel like your mom felt like she had to make that decision between being a Manhattan attorney and a mom, and that's kind of why she made that choice, and you're not going to quote unquote burn out like that because you're doing both at the same time?
Totally not. In fact, she did not want to be she didn't want to be a lawyer. By the time she had, she was in law school. My parents graduated. My parents are amazing people. And they graduated medical school and law school with 2 children. So, they're incredible. And so by the time my mom I was like, she realized that obviously the life of a lawyer is not like the kind of the best life for being a mother, and she was really, really happy to quit and stay home with us. And that was what made me feel so strongly about staying home with my kids, because that was like part of her story, that her being home with us was so valuable and being there for us was so valuable that she would rather quit a job that she could have had and probably made a lot more money or whatever, obviously, than staying at home. So like I saw that as like, that was like her strength. She wanted to be with us, and that's how I feel, the same way I feel about my kids. So I'm lucky, because I mean, when she was a young mom, what I did wasn't even available. I mean, there wasn't this possibility. Now I'm lucky I can work from wherever, from my playroom, or from, if we're on vacation, or if we're not, in my bedroom at night, if my kids are driving me crazy, so either way, it doesn't matter. I'm lucky to have this opportunity to be able to meld the two.
And I think that that's such an important point that speaks a lot to the character of your mother and to your character as well, is this idea that even if I go to school, even if I set myself up in a certain life path, if I find that's not working for me, I have to have the courage and the fortitude to go with what I really want to do, as opposed to kind of like you said, show up at work every day and not live a life that I want to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's funny because people have asked me before, like, oh, so if your mother's a doctor, my mother was a lawyer, were they like disappointed in you that like you didn't go to college, were they like, and I was like totally not. I mean, my parents have been so supportive in like whatever I thought, I tried a lot of things. Like I did photography, I did cake decorating, I did like gift baskets. Like I'm a very like kind of jack of all trades sort of kind of person. I like to just try things and see until I kind of came to this. And the reason I like this so much is because it actually takes a lot of different puzzle pieces and puts it together into a marketing strategy, and that kind of like works with like my personality. And they're like proud, like they're proud of like whatever I do. There's they're really fantastic, and I've never felt any sort of like feeling of letting them down by not going to college or by getting married young, or they've been really supportive of everything I did. And I think you're right. I think like the funny thing is I think that it's almost not popular to say I like staying home with my kids, because you have to have like a higher calling, and it's like that can't be all you want to do, right? But here's the facts were like when I was just home with my kids, like I was really okay with that. Like I was not like, oh my goodness, I feel like unfulfilled because I'm not and I was lucky. I found this work that I enjoy and that I'm good at, but it doesn't mean that I feel like I'd rather do this than be with my kids. It's still, to me, being a mom is the most important part for me. And so and that's why that's almost not a popular thing to say. It's like you're supposed to be like, oh no, but I really felt like I was missing something. I didn't really feel like I was missing something. I was fine. Now, there's definitely a certain level of satisfaction in being able to produce things that don't get immediately destroyed. So, but it's still something that is not. If I had to choose, if I had to like turn around and choose, I would drop this in a second, because that's not my main. I do this so that I can be with my children. I don't do this so I can do this for the sake of it, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I think also what's important, and you nailed it on the head with this now that, authenticity and vulnerability is so forefront, that now we have to teach people how to be vulnerable, which is by definition not being vulnerable because you're learning how to do it. Right. But that concept also goes the other way, which is, in a certain world, let's say if you live in a certain society and and it is very much like be the mother and et cetera, and you want more to also have the fortitude to say that I am going to push myself out of my comfort zone, find a job, start doing stuff. And it's not a bad thing, because, there are women like you. Like when I met people that like math, I'm like, wow, that's shocking. I didn't know people like you exist. You know what I'm saying? It's like the same thing. It's like, just appreciate the fact that you're different, and then try to fulfill yourself based on what you need. It's a very basic concept that carries with it so much shame nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah, either way, it really, moms really can't win. Either way, someone's telling them they're doing something wrong. Either it's like you go out to work and it's like, how can you neglect your children? Then you stay home. You're like, how can you, don't you feel like, you're missing something, and don't you feel like you're not fulfilled? Either way, like you can't win. So there's no point in trying to make anyone else happy. But I actually didn't feel, when I decided to start doing this kind of thing. It did kind of evolve, but like. I do feel like it's a good thing. I think that a lot of women, especially Jewish women, because we're taught very much about like not being materialistic, and that money isn't everything and all that kind of stuff. So we're almost like trained to I don't want to say like be afraid of money, or like just like money is not like necessarily a good thing. It's just like
you feel guilty. You feel guilty.
Yeah, exactly. It's a necessary evil, and we gotta have it to survive, and and you shouldn't want to have a lot of money, because that's like greedy, and for me it's more of like I came to this place where I'm like, what, I want to make a lot of money. I want to make a lot of money because this money needs to make up for the fact that the time I'm spending making this money is the time that I'm not spending with my children. So I may as well make this time count as much as possible, right? And if I can make a lot of money and, I don't know, have more guests for Shabbos, or, give more tzedakah, or help people in my family, or help people in my community, or like whatever it is, like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that it's something that I think women struggle with it in general. I think like going and asking for money, asking for raises, being willing to charge what they're worth, even if there are men who are like probably doing the same thing and not even as well, and they're charging like double. And I've seen this a lot. And so I think, and like I said, especially for Jewish women, it can also be kind of a hard thing to be like, no, I'm worth this much money, and I'm going to ask for it, and it's okay. It's not a bad thing, if, to charge whatever it is you're charging.
I think that, it also goes back to, I guess, a certain cultural, I guess, at least for Eastern Europeans, that, like for so many years, we were sort of in these really bad economic situations where we didn't have any options. And so we sort of associated with, like the negative of just a practical situation with what we're supposed to be like, that there's like some, I don't know, maybe I'm getting too in the weeds with it, but there's like almost like a cultural like challenge with, again, it's the same thing I encounter a lot of times when I'm very forthcoming about working out. And it's like, well, you have to technically keep your body healthy, but it's like, I don't want to be apologetic about the fact that I like working out, that I think it's a great thing. And I think the same thing's true with money. It's like, if you feel like what you're doing is valuable and you feel like it's going to make you a better version of yourself, and obviously if you're highly compensated for what you do, just personally, and I'm sure you're the same way, it's like, I will show up better if I know that if the client has a lot more money on the line, because I want them to get their values worth. And if they're giving it to me for free, or if they're giving it, if I'm giving this crazy discount, I'm like, okay, so I'll talk to you, I'll help you when I can, but it's not like this, my day is going to be built around this because you are putting yourself out there and compensating me in a large degree.
Oh, no, that's definitely true. And I mean, I find that on both sides. Number one, like on our side, like you said, kind of making it feel not feeling taken advantage of, right? And so it's hard to like give it your all when you feel taken advantage of. But also on the side of the client as well, I find that they also, when they have more skin in the game, they will value the work more and they will put more into it too. So it works on both sides. Like I've noticed like the difference sometimes in clients who are paying me a lot and clients are paying me a little, and like the level of difficulty that I have with them is ridiculous because the ones who are paying more are like, okay, like, you know what you're doing. Like, I trust that. The ones who are not are the ones who are like DIYers, who are like kind of like want a little bit of help here and a little help there, and they're kind of like trying to cut corners everywhere, and it's very exhausting. And I'm not saying those people don't need help, and that's actually why I started not just doing done for you services, but also offering trainings and doing programs that are lower cost that I help people do. I do things with them because sometimes people can't afford to hire things out completely, and that's okay. So I want to be able to help those people too, which is why I've been doing this. But when it comes to like my time and the 2 years, and I probably can say like I'll double it, because if you want to say 2 years and you have to also explain, I also do like double it with the nights that I spend not sleeping. So all that time spent learning and doing and practicing and all that kind of stuff is worth something, is worth a lot. And so and that's okay. It's not a bad thing.
I'm gonna nail this. Then we just have to. I would love to slightly transition to also what you're clearly very phenomenal about this stuff, but also a little bit more in your professional realm. But I think that point is so crucial that a lot of times, if you figure out what the value is, let's say, what is the value of a marketing strategy that works? It's going to bring you, 10 times, 2 times, just double the clients that you have right now. Like, what's the value worth? And you're like, oh, well, everything. But then, a lot of times people say, like in the coaching space, it's like, oh, do I have to actually pay that much? Like, I thought you like helping people. And the reality is, I'm not doing it for me. Like, every time I've hired a coach and I'm looking at, I'm like, there's no way I can afford this. And I have to get every cent, every cent out of this worth it. If I'm going to go for it, that's the thing that actually made me appreciate it. So I think what you're saying is 100% on point for a person that is not used or doesn't want to, because information is so free nowadays. Why would I ever want to pay? The answer is, well, because you might want to actually get some results as opposed to just swimming in the endless world of free information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit. Digital marketing strategist. So, not to try to squeeze some free information out of you, but like what are the I mean, there's so much out there that like you said, there's funnels, there's all kinds of different platforms. What are the basics that a person should be asking themselves? A single person that's trying to build, let's say, like a certain practice, I keep going back to dental practices or coaching practices, to a company. What should you be asking yourself? When should you be hiring out? What should you be learning about? Like, it's just like such a big space that it becomes very intimidating to figure out, like, what is the strategy?
Oh, for sure. Listen, I mean, like you said, a dental practice and a coaching practice are going to be two completely different things, and their clients may be in two completely different places. But I think the first thing to think about is who you're serving. right? So, and then, you have to be very, very clear on that, right? Dental practice is a little more broad because, you can technically serve a 3-year-old to a 90-year-old. But if you think about, like, in general, who's the main person you're serving? Usually probably the parents, not the 3-year-olds, and maybe from, let's say, parents onwards to, like, the middle-aged or whatever. You're going to be like, okay, fine. So where do they hang out? Where can I reach them? Often that will be Facebook. Facebook is a pretty broad, spectrum of users. I think probably the broadest, besides, as a social media platform, for example, right? But, you might use Google, you might use YouTube, but it's really a matter of figuring out who your person is and then how you can serve them and bring them into your paid products, right? So it's a lot about, like, that customer journey, of that know, like, trust factor, where it's like, often, like, things like people like dentists, like, you need a lot of social proof. You want to, at least, if someone's not going to refer you directly, then at least you want to see, like, real people who had real experiences with, like, for example, this dentist that were happy with it, right? So so that then it's a matter of figuring out what's going to speak to your target audience, what's going to bring them in, what is the thing that makes the most sense. And I think the place where a lot of people get mixed up is, like, they just want to kind of, like, oh, I want ads, like, just like, I want to put an ad in the newspaper and throw money at ads, right? But the thing is, until you know exactly what is going to really be bringing people in, it's hard to, you shouldn't be throwing tons of money there, because you need to be able to mimic that customer journey in a paid format. And that way you can reach more people. So if you think, I don't know, as a dentist, you should be like, okay, offer, like, a free cleaning if it's your first visit, and then target the people in your neighborhood. That will probably work really well, because, like, why not? Just want to get a free cleaning, and then once you're in there, dentists can potentially upsell them to all kinds of things. Or for a coach as well. I found a lot of times that testimonial videos just worked so well, because when you see real people who had real results from this coach, and you already know this person and they've been speaking to you through their content, through the value they're giving, then it becomes much easier to make a decision. And every kind of business has their own level of value they give, whereas, a dentist, for example, might be doing a weekly Facebook Live about, taking care of your teeth, and when you need to know, like, when you do need a root canal, and when you can just kind of, like, take an aspirin and, power through, or all this kind of stuff. You have to think about the questions people are asking and then answer them. And then, depending on what it is you're doing, if it's an actual service, then there's only so much that you can tell them without actually doing it for them. And there's going to be a certain level of people who are going to come to you saying, can you do it for me? And there's going to be a certain level of people who, like, for example, with coaching or with marketing, are going to say, can you help me do this? Or can you teach me how to do this myself? And that's kind of the three, especially online with online education, there's kind of the three levels: is the DIY, the done with you, and the done for you. And so done for you is obviously going to be the most expensive, because it's your time. So you're charging for your time. I hope that makes sense.
So
there's a lot.
No, absolutely. I totally understand. So I think, what do you tell clients when they are concerned? I guess, that I think specificity, is much more the name of the game nowadays, because you try to find your specific micro tribe, whatever you want to say, the small group of people that highly identify with what you're talking about, as opposed to back in the old days where you try to, like, hit this mass market. How do you help people, or do you find that that's the job of the client to figure out how to tailor their services or messages to the right group? Or what are some questions that you want to ask yourself as a business owner when I'm trying to figure out who am I actually selling to, with that kind of overarching fear that I'm going to offend or not have, a bunch of people sign up who would theoretically be just as good clients by being selective?
That's kind of, like, I think that's the thing people struggle with the most, is kind of like that, like the you say the riches are in the niches, but it's very hard to be very, very, very specific, because you're like you said, you're scared. But often when you're much more specific, you can charge much higher prices, because you're a specialist in that specific area. For example, if you, like, I don't know, do Facebook ads for e-commerce, and you only do Facebook ads for e-commerce, you're going to probably be much better than someone who does Facebook ads for everything, right? And so it does work. And then the cool thing is you can kind of create that, like, you'll end up automatically attracting people around you, to you that are your people, because you're so clear about what you do and who you serve. But it doesn't need to be as specific as that. You could say, I serve, moms who are, mom business owners. All right. So, mom business owners who are consistently hitting, I don't know, 5K a month or so in their businesses and want to scale higher. So, everything you do, whenever you think about what do I offer and how do I, what questions are they asking, you think about it from that perspective, because these people are not asking the questions, how can I go from making $1 million to 10 million? Okay, they're asking the questions, how can I scale? How can I hire? Who do I hire? What can I do myself? Because at that point, they're still doing some things themselves, right? So it's really, the more specific you get in a way, the easier it is to know what they're looking for, because like I said, it could be a very, very broad spectrum of business. Let's say if you're serving business owners, you can't say, oh, I serve business owners. There are so many of them. You can't do that. So either you could serve local business owners, you could serve online business owners, you could serve coaches or whatever it is. But it's much easier for you then to attract these kinds of people because you're literally pulling them in through what you're offering them and what you're saying. And that's what I said for me, like with the mom thing, it works for me because I do tend to attract moms. It's just something that tends to happen, which I prefer in a way because I can be as forgiving as they can. When their kids are sitting in their lap during a call and my kids are sitting in my lap during a call, no one's complaining because we both get it. This is just how it is. So, which is what just happened literally like right before I got on here. I was on a call with another mom who's actually in Germany, so she's a couple hours away from me, and my kids were running in and her kids were on top of her, and it was fine because we were moms and we both know we have to deal with it, and we managed to have a very productive conversation nonetheless. So it's really a matter, like I said, that also helps when you say when you're being that polarizing, however you're being polarizing, it really will automatically kind of attract people you want to attract and push away the people you want to push away, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I love that. So it actually does tie back very nicely to this idea that I guess you have to unapologetically kind of be yourself and be honest with who you are, because I imagine that most business owners, for you, for me, for anybody really, kind of knows who they would ideally want to work with and
right.
What they look like, what they're interested in. But it just, there's that fear, I guess you could say, of, well, I don't want to disqualify myself by saying this is the market I really care about by offending everyone else. But ultimately, like you're saying, that arriving back to that center and just kind of unapologetically being, well, I kind of like, this is what I like, is the solution, not only in your life, but also within your business.
Definitely. It's funny that you brought that up because it made me think of something when I was at Funnel Hacking Live, which is this big conference a few months ago. It was in February. So not having ever been in corporate and being a very religious woman, went there and I was like, hey, I don't shake guys' hands. And then someone was like to me, like, you totally could, like, it's okay because it's for work. I was like, it's really not. Like, I'm not going to get fired if I don't shake someone's hand. And if I tell someone that I can't shake his hand because of my religious beliefs and he doesn't like it, then I'm like, okay, great, I won't work with you. Plenty of other fish in the sea. It doesn't bother me. And I found that people actually respect. I mean, it was funny. Some people, about let's say 5% of people, looked at me very weirdly and were like, okay, like, you're weird. And I was like, okay, have a nice day. But most people were very, very respectful of it, and really, like, I literally had guys like jumping in front of me, like in front of other guys, saying, hey, yo, she can't shake your hand, because like they knew, and like she goes, okay, that's that weird lady from Israel who doesn't shake hands, but she's cool, and it was okay, and it was. I'm not saying it wasn't nerve-wracking. It really was. It was a little bit awkward, and I had to definitely find different ways to kind of avoid it sometimes, but I didn't feel like I needed to compromise on who I was, just because I happened to be in a different situation, right? Because like I said, I'm my own boss. I don't need to work with someone if I don't want to. No one's going to fire me if I don't shake someone's hand, right? I'm not going to get in trouble. And if someone thinks I'm a little odd, they'll think I'm a little odd, and I won't work with them. There are so many people who would, and that's okay. And it was very interesting. It was the first time I ever put in that situation, but it ended up being totally fine, and like it made me feel a lot more confident about going back next year. So I think it's going to be okay.
It's amazing, and I don't know if you meant to tie it together in such a nice little box, but it definitely did kind of come full circle, and that's fantastic. I really want to be respectful of your time because this was awesome. I really enjoyed it. How do people find you, learn more about you, and what you do?
Okay, so you can find me on my website at yaelbendahan.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the places at the Yael Bendahan, like the THE. And I kind of show up there. I go live on Facebook a lot about different parts of marketing, and feel free to send me a message and send me an email. Wherever it is, you can find me through my website or through my social media.
Amazing, Yael. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you. There you have it, folks, another inspiring episode. If you enjoyed this, I ask you to please share this with your friends and to like us over on Rabbi Rupp through Facebook or on YouTube. And the more that we're able to get these important messages out, the more that we can really make an impact in the world. So I encourage you, please, to stay tuned. We have a ton of amazing speakers coming up, and also to tell your friends about it. Thank you very much.